your opening statement, I want you to follow up on and amplify, if you would. One has to do with the problem we've talked about frequently, and that's tracking data and how that negatively impacts small-owned businesses who are trying to get their foot in the door of the federal procurement opportunities. And the other thing you mentioned was the need for regional breakouts of data showing what successes are being achieved. And this is similar to the concern I raised earlier about this circle that's been drawn around the District of Columbia and where the concentration of federal contracting dollars goes, and then the other circle that goes around the large corporations that have the lion's share of these federal procurement dollars. So if you could just elaborate a little bit on those two concerns, false contracting data and the need for requested regional breakdown.
Sure. If we just, when we take a look at the measurements and the top 50 firms, for instance, that I mentioned, what we see is there's about a third of the contracts with the top 50 firms that are claim to be with women-owned, but they're not. And there's about $5 billion is what we're looking at when you look at the 100 firms that's in question of the dollars. So I give you some examples of some of the issues. Approximately half of the 50 firms listed in the top 50 have male CEOs. Approximately 21 of the 50 firms listed at the top 50 are not designated as women-owned in CCR. And then 17 of the firms that we found in the top 50 are not shown as small in the NAICS codes in CCR that they have the contracts in. And so there are a number of those issues, and what happens, especially when we get the women's contracting program up and running, there are two portions of that. One is how this will impact that, making sure that women-owned firms are really accessing it, but then also on from this side of it, where we don't have that program yet, we're reflecting data that's out there and the agencies are claiming to make their numbers, and yet they're not. So women, I believe, are being locked out of more contracts than what the SBA is showing right now. So that's the first part, and I forget the second part. I apologize.
The second part had to do with the regional breakouts and why that's important.
Right. I think it's important to show where the contracts are going so that you can see the impact in the communities. When you take a look at right now the companies that are in D.C. and are able to get to D.C., that are servicing most of the contracts, and when you while there might be agencies that have buying capabilities in the various regions, we need to make sure that those businesses in their regions have access to those dollars.
I spent part of Friday afternoon in the small community of Olwine, Iowa, in my district, with five women who own their own businesses and are really having an enormous impact on revitalizing a downtown area. My sense is that a lot of your members really feed on this synergy that develops when one successful women-owned business is providing opportunities for networking and connection with other women. Is that why expanding regional access to procurement opportunities is so critical to the people in your membership?
I think that's part of it, and certainly what we see in general for small business, whether it be women or not, that when you bring the buying back into the community, and I think Hurricane Katrina speaks very closely to this, where the contracts were actually awarded to corporations that were not based in the region, and the region is still suffering how many years later, going on 3. Whereas if we could make sure that in the communities that there are, whether it be this disaster and helping to rebuild, or there's other economic impact within the communities, that's how we're going to make sure that the community itself will be growing. If we can provide access to the contracts into the community, then the money will come in, we can grow their businesses, hire more employees within the community, the money goes back into the community, and that is very good for the economy.
Thank you. Ms. Wilcox, the SBA certification workshop you described in Kingsport sounded like a great opportunity to help bridge some of this knowledge gap that many small business owners experience. Can you just share with us some of the observations or lessons you learned from being part of that, and what things you think the committee could benefit from knowing about that particular workshop?
The workshop that I mentioned earlier was the SBA certification workshop, and also Carol Crawley came out and did the certification for TDOT. And whenever we do an event like that on certification or anything money related, capital related, we do tend to draw a larger participation, and it's not just Kingsport participation, but it's a regional draw. So the need for that, it just demonstrates to me that there's a tremendous need for that type of workshop to go on. And in 2007, we did about 5 SBA events in Kingsport, and I think that of course put us in the position that we're in today, having that strategic partnership. But there's definitely a need for it. There's a draw. People come out for it, and people actually register in the CCR after doing that. And I was talking to a panelist during one of our breaks, but I've found that, you know, after a workshop like that, the client will go in, they will register themselves in the CCR, but then I think it stops, you know, at that point, because it can be a little bit overwhelming for them. They don't know where to go next. And so it's a good start, but I think we need to help them get further with it. The 95 clients that I mentioned, or businesses in Kingsport that are there, how many are really still interested in doing federal government work? How many have been awarded a contract? And how many are just going to stay right there on that step one? I'm in the CCR system, but they haven't gone that step further to say I'm a small disadvantaged business, I'm a hub zone business. They don't go the extra steps. They seem to stop.
My perception is that it's a lot like fishing, that if you haul out a trophy fish and you take it around and show it to your friends and family, they're more likely to go fish in that lake or pond. And I think with SBA programs, if you can document some of the successes that businesses in your region are having in participating in these procurement opportunities, it creates more enthusiasm for further participation. But if people don't see results, they don't have the incentive to continue to explore the opportunities. Is
Right.
that what you're seeing?
That is exactly what I'm seeing, and I can give you a great example. Keith Joy with Oak Ridge National Laboratories has been to Kingsport a number of times last year to support Cosby. And he came out one time, he did a breakfast meeting for us and spoke to about 50 small businesses at that breakfast meeting. On another occasion, he came out and we set him up with individual appointments with clients that we had pre-screened and pre-qualified. So that means that they were already in the CCR, they were already in the Oak Ridge database. And Keith sat down with them and talked about marketing strategies, etc. That client, that Cosby client, has actually been contacted. At least he's getting a little bit further. He's the one that was Hub Zone certified. He's a veteran. So there is a good story there. Now he has an opportunity to bid on something. Now, did he respond to it? I don't know. I'll have to verify that. But there is a good story, and it is contagious.
Great, thank you. I want to thank all of our witnesses for coming here today. Ms. Ott, it's not always fun to be the SBA representative at these hearings, but it's a very important function for the work of the subcommittee. We appreciate your willingness to come and share your candid assessment of some of these issues. It's very important to the small business owners of this country, so thank you for joining us today. And to all the other witnesses, I know that this is an imposition on your time, and we really do appreciate the stories you've shared, the experiences that you've learned, and it makes the work of this committee more vital and gives us a human face that we can apply to these important decisions we're making here. So thank you all.